kicking us off is Laura Khalil. And either she cannot quit intermittent or intermittent cannot quit her, because she has been a consistent attendee favorite over the last few years. Laura Khalil is joining us from Brave by Design. She is a speaker, a teacher, and as she said in the chat, she can't stop, won't stop. Speaker, teacher, host of the top 100 Apple podcast, Brave by Design, which is focused on helping women achieve incredible success in their careers and their lives. Laura is a master storyteller, consulting with clients like Twitter, GE, and Intel on how to use storytelling to improve the lives of their customers. Laura's training unlocks the code to becoming magnetic to help individuals learn how to rise, lead with empathy, and live abundantly. So with that, as Laura's official hype man for the day, ladies and gentlemen, making her way to the stage with a Twitter handle of For CEO of Badassery, please welcome Miss Can't Stop, Won't Stop, Laura Khalil. Virtual round of applause. Laura, take it away.
Raj, I need to take you with me everywhere I go. Okay.
I'll record a voice memo for you, and you just play that whenever you walk into a room.
Walking in front of me, that's like hyping me up every morning. It's such a pleasure to be here. Some of you know me, and as Raj said, I just seem to be unable to quit intermittent. I can't leave. This is my 4th year, and without further ado, let's get started. Okay. Here we go. Okay, so today I'm going to be talking about the call to courage and rewriting your narrative in the face of challenge. Well, have any of you heard this phrase? A smooth sea never made a skilled sailor. And I really believe that. And I can say confidently, for those of you who are over 30 or have hit 30, if not sooner, you've probably been through at least a couple stormy waters. I sure have. The first 37 years of my life were like living in a kaleidoscope that I couldn't quite focus. Something always felt a little bit out of place. I mean, I guess I should say I always felt a little bit out of place. You see, I'm the child of immigrants, and this is our home country. My father is Egyptian and my mom is of Lebanese heritage. And I was their child who looked more like I came from the Alps than the Sahara. See, my white skin and my white blonde hair when I was a kid and my green eyes was like nobody on the other side of my family. And when I asked why that was, my parents just told me there were a lot of fair-skinned Lebanese people and, left it at that. But I felt really different. And I didn't ever truly feel like I was totally part of my community. And I didn't understand why I didn't look like my family. This actually bothered me for years. So I finally got the answers to this nagging question about my identity in 2018 when I got a very surprising message from 23andMe. I had a half-sister, and she had green eyes, just like me. Well, within the next year, I went from being an only child to becoming the big sister to 9 half-siblings that you see here. We all shared a sperm donor. My life changed that year when I realized that the story I'd always known about my family and upbringing was not the complete picture. Who raised me was not my biological father, and my parents had to make the difficult decision to use a sperm donor and undergo artificial insemination. So this was basically me. I experienced a full-blown identity crisis. And I had to really rewrite my narrative of who I was. And today I'm going to show you a few tools to help you navigate the challenges that you're facing as your life shifts in new and unexpected ways. And we're going to use the power of storytelling and personal narrative to shift your perspective so you too can navigate the stormy seas while staying focused on your North Star. Now, I bet quite a few of you have either experienced an identity crisis or felt like the rug has been pulled out from under you at different points in your life. Am I right? Let's talk about some of those. It could be through job loss, trying to figure out your new career. It could be through becoming a parent. It could be through divorce, marriage, the passing of a loved one, perhaps becoming the parent to your parents. Or maybe for all of us, as we saw, COVID-19 suddenly shifted you from one role to another or to many at once entirely. Or perhaps the constant onslaught of watching our Black and brown brothers and sisters be killed by police has left you unmoored and not knowing what to do. When our world has shifted, we usually ask ourselves, why is this happening? What am I supposed to do? And what the heck does this all mean anyhow? And I asked those same exact questions when I discovered my new family. So here's where I want us to start. We cannot change what's happening outside of us. We cannot change these external situations. The stormy seas have arrived, so to speak. One of the root causes of suffering is expecting people to be different than they actually are, what they show us they are. You cannot change anyone else. What we can change, though, is how to respond to our situation and the people in it, and what action we take next. So let's talk about that. Psychology has shown us that there is no one fixed reality. That would explain why we all have different ideas, beliefs, and opinions when we look at the same event or look at this illustration. I bet we all see slightly different things here. Rather, what you perceive is what you believe. Another way of saying that is perception is what you see is what you get. We don't see things as they are. We see things as we are. Now, if you perceive that your current situation is miserable, you will look in your environment for reasons to reinforce that belief. And if you perceive that you have what it takes in a really challenging circumstance to face your challenges, you will find the tools, people, and resources to help you succeed. Now, in saying all of that, the situation in front of you has not changed. We aren't denying what's happening, but your reaction can change. It's not about deluding yourself either. It's about becoming aware of your thoughts and realizing that not all the bad stuff going on in your head is actually true. Perceptions are based on your beliefs, and those beliefs often start in childhood. So by the time we're adults, they're automatic. We don't really question them. And, I love this illustration because as I was trying to look for an illustration to share this point with you, I found this. You can see here, it says, good, not rude, reward chart for good girls, right? So what is that message we're actually teaching through this? We're teaching it's better to be good than rude. Okay, so what does rude mean? Well, we all know sort of subconsciously that rude means speaking up, being honest with people, telling people no, and protesting. Those things are rude, and good girls wouldn't do them. Or would they? But that's the type of message we teach our child. And so we grow up wanting to avoid conflict because that seems like it would make us a bad person. But that's the furthest thing from the truth. See, children learn more from what you are than what you teach. How our parents acted taught us a lot about how we have internalized what's possible for our lives. And we do that in turn with our children. We have to be the change we want to see in the world. And if you want to begin to rewrite your personal story that's playing in your head, take an inventory of the self-limiting beliefs and thoughts as they crop up. Sometimes they crop up just so easily you don't even realize it's happening. Which ones are holding you back and which thoughts and beliefs are helping you grow? So in my case, I had a choice. I could choose to either be really angry with my parents for quote unquote lying to me and never talk to them again. I could choose to shut my computer and not look at 23andMe again. Or I could choose, another path. What was I going to do when faced with this challenge, right? Problem is with all of those responses I mentioned, they're rooted in anger and fear of the unknown. So how many of you, I'm just curious, have ever made a decision based on fears? I mean, I have. We all have in the past, for sure. Maybe those fears are very old and those stories you learned a really long time ago. What does fear do, though? It keeps you stuck exactly where you are. The only antidote to fear is action. Okay? So instead, I chose to do something different and not let the fear of this new discovery overrun me. I got curious. Now, your brain wants to draw a conclusion immediately because we don't like uncertainty. But curiosity can reap so many rewards if we can hold off on assuming we have the answer to what's going on. All right. So I love this little guy here. Whoops. The quality of your life is based on the quality of the questions you ask yourself. And if you are tired of always getting what you get out of life, it is time to start asking better questions. So instead of saying to myself, this is the worst thing ever, I don't know how I'm supposed to deal with this year can just go die in a dumpster fire. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but every year at the end of the year, I see those posts on Facebook from people who say, this year was trash, hopefully next year is better. Then the next year they say, this year was trash, hopefully next year was better. Guess what? It's not going to be better if that's your attitude, okay? So let me ask this question instead. And this is the question I asked myself. Why might this scenario, this really challenging circumstance I'm in, why might this be the best thing ever? Have you ever considered asking yourself that question about whatever challenge you're in the midst of? It seems like crazy, but consider doing that. See, Alan Watts said the only way to make sense out of change is to plunge into it, to move with it, and to join the dance. So how can we dance with whatever life brings us instead of feeling weighed down by it? Well, I'm sure some of you may have heard of the hero's journey. This was based on the work of Joseph Campbell. See, every one of us has a choice to become the victim of our history or the master of our destiny by choosing to say yes to the adventure of life and all the challenges and support that will come. You are becoming an engaged participant in your hero's journey. Now, for the sake of this talk, I'm going to say the word hero, but you could also think heroine. I'm referring to all humans, whatever your gender expression. Now, if you haven't heard of this before, it's, as I said, based on the work of Joseph Campbell, who studied the great myths of the world across time and cultures, and noticed some very similar themes that we face that follow a similar story arc, or the hero's journey. You see, by seeing our life through the lens of story, we get to tap into the joy, flow, and abundance that comes to us naturally when we focus on what lights us up and how we can be of service to others. So instead of following the well-worn path that we all know of doing what we should do, doing what we're told to do, being a good girl, which invariably leads to depression, anxiety, and feeling like something is missing in your life, I want you to consider that nobody likes to be shoulded upon. And embarking on your hero's journey is a path to discovering and sharing your greatest gifts with the world so you too can be a change maker in your community. So let me give you a very quick overview of what that journey looks like if you're interested in stepping into it. We're going to start with our hero or heroine. It follows a very simple story structure. And we have a call to adventure. So let's use COVID-19. Oh my gosh, that's our call to adventure. It doesn't always sound fun, but it is an entryway into the new and unknown that you are plunged into. Along that path, you can find mentors and guides to help you. You will invariably experience trials and tribulations. But in doing that, in facing those challenges, you're going to gain new skills that will prepare you to slay your dragons. Now, what am I talking about with dragons? It's like you guys are like, how did we end up at like a D&D convention? But let me tell you. So these dragons I'm referring to are a concept in storytelling, right? The dragon's like this evil monster, right? As Joseph Campbell says, the dragons have many scales. And on each of the scales on their body, It reads, you should. See, by vanquishing your dragons, you are releasing what everyone else tells you you should or ought to be doing with your life. And if you are experiencing great stress and anxiety, I want you to consider that part of that is related to trying to carry the expectations of others on your shoulders. And what does that do? It weighs you down. By slaying our dragons, by slaying those shoulds, you free yourself from these limitations, which is all they really are. And that allows us, your community, to experience the real you. So once you do that, you can transform and return to the community with the wisdom to help all of us learn and grow. So I'm going to ask you a series of questions. You may want to write these down. In your life, if you want to get a handle on whatever challenge is going on, I want you to start by doing this. Zoom out and look at your life from 20,000 feet, okay? Imagine yourself as a character that you're watching. And ask yourself this: what story am I in right now? Am I in a victim story? Am I in a helpless can't do anything story? Am I in a heroine story? Am I in the role of someone who is just floating along? Furthermore, do I like the story I'm in? Where would I love to go next on this journey? Where am I headed based on my current thoughts and actions? I'll talk more about that in a second. What do I need to do to heed the call to adventure? Who can help me? Where can I find them? And what will I do when I inevitably counter trials and tribulations and more challenges on this path? Okay. Now, I know some of you are listening to this and thinking, Laura, I don't need to pretend and make up this whole story about my life. And you know what? That's true. You actually don't need to do this. But I'm going to ask you this. How much stress do you have in your life? How much fear and anxiety are you pushing down or trying to manage? How many feelings have gone unsaid, and how fulfilled do you feel right now? I can guarantee you this, that if you continue doing what you've always done, you can expect you're going to get what you've always gotten. And if you don't like what you have right now, it's worth trying something else. Now, I want you to see yourself as the author of your life, and each day is another draft in your personal narrative. So if you don't like today's draft, guess what? You can write a new one tomorrow. So to become the next version of yourself, you are wise to begin acting like the person you want to become and to step into the role of that future self. So let me give you some concrete examples. If you want to run your own company, ask yourself, how can I begin to act more like a CEO or leader? If you want to run a marathon, but I'm a couch potato today, I know that being a couch potato is not going to make me a marathoner. So what would an athlete do instead? How would I need to think like one? And if I want to become more of an activist, but I feel paralyzed because I don't want to do or say the wrong thing, who is an activist I can learn from? What would they do next? Do that. See, whatever you quest for is likely a function of what you believe is missing in your life. Your voids create your values. What you perceive to be missing in the world is what you will strive to fulfill. Your challenges are not in vain. Please hear me. Your challenges, what you have experienced in life up to this point, is not in vain. The things you have felt lacking in your life are not to be begrudged or upset about. They are the guideposts to help you discover what you truly value and how to bring that into the world to solve those problems. See, because I grew up in a community where I felt like I didn't have community, it was a void, I had a very high value on community, and today I do. And that's why I have such a high focus in my company, Brave by Design, on building and fostering community for ambitious women and allies. See, to give people the keys to learn how to design their own lives and become masters of their destiny instead of letting life happen to them, right? That's what's important to me because I was missing it. So the reason I could also acknowledge that these 9 siblings I suddenly discovered that came into my life brought me everything I had always felt missing on a familial level, which was the sense of community. So that challenge about learning my true identity was actually one of the greatest gifts I could ever receive. Nietzsche has this great quote called "Loving your fate," accepting what is and not trying to run from it, but saying a hearty yes to being the one chosen to take it on. And if you're living a heroic life according to your own hero's journey, then you're taking on challenges that inspire you. You are the perfect person to address the challenges in your life. They were designed for you. So thank them every day because we all grow right at the border between support and challenge. Now, back to my family. These are a few of my sisters anyway. I think there's a lot about their mother's fate and what they chose to rise up to. See, all of my siblings were the children of single women. And most of those single women, they were lesbians. So we were all born in the 80s. And while that may not seem that far away, at least it doesn't to me, it was still an era where it was deeply socially unacceptable and very hard to become pregnant as a single mother through artificial insemination. And for gay people, it was almost impossible. In fact, here where I am in Southeast Michigan, there was only one doctor we know of who would help these women get pregnant. And it just so happened to be the doctor that my mom and dad used. My sisters' moms would not take no for an answer. They accepted their fate and who they were and rose to the challenge that they faced. They risked their families, their careers, and livelihoods so they could be moms. And some of those moms raised their children together in Ann Arbor, Michigan. They actually had no idea these kids were related and wouldn't find out until their children did DNA testing a couple of years ago. They didn't have to do this. They could have just given up, but they chose to heed the call to courage, to become the masters of their destiny and to be among a wave of women who would pave the way for future women of all orientations to have children. So, what stops most of us from being courageous is the thought that now is just not the right time, and that sometime in the future, it's going to be a better time. But this is a lie that your brain tells you, okay? There will never be a better time than today to take the first step in the direction of your dreams. Now, Rome was not built in a day, okay? Most people are afraid to take that first step, but they don't understand that an overnight success is 10 years in the making. There are no shortcuts, but don't get discouraged. Quite the opposite. See, I think most people get so caught up in the future goal that they never realize that today is the culmination of so many of your prior dreams. Think about that. Choosing to say yes to the call to courage and going on your hero's journey each day is success in and of itself. Life is not about achieving a moment in time. It is about living fully in all the little moments because together they create the mosaic that is your life. Joseph Campbell said, "It may look like a wreck, but go as if it's an opportunity." Opportunities to find deeper powers within ourselves when life can seem most challenging. I started off my talk today talking about perception, creating your own reality, and asking better questions of your life. We looked at how you can see your life as an adventure on your hero's journey to making meaning of the challenges and opportunities that you face. So I want you to ask yourself, when you're faced with challenge, why might this be the best thing ever? Remember that today you're going to hear from change makers who are on the front lines, who have heeded the call to build a more just and equitable society. They are helping others write new chapters in their lives. They're helping all of us heal. As we face a world where racial equity and justice seems like a never-ending challenge, I want to call you to courage. I believe you are here because you're the perfect person to use your unique skills to address the injustices you see in the world. Every challenge you've faced and every opportunity you've seized has brought you to this moment here with us today. And I believe that together we can be the change we want to see in the world. Thank you, my friends. Here's to a great day.